Woo woo! We're making steam-powered dumplings. We're rolling. It's live. What's up? It's your boy, Amateur Pro Home Chef Nathanael Levinson. Today we're going to be making... I completely forgot. What's up? It's your boy, Amateur Pro Home Chef Nathanael Levinson. Today we're making bao. Bao are a type of steamed bun from China. There's a lot of different kinds. China's a big country. It's got a lot of regions and a lot of different variations. But the one we're going to be making, I believe, are called Baozi. I'm definitely pronouncing that wrong, so I apologize to any Mandarin speakers out there.
包子，包子，
I'm butchering your language. But what's nice about this is it's a steamed bun made of yeast dough. So the outside is going to get nice and fluffy, and then the inside, for all of the steamed dumplings, are really just a blank canvas. So first thing we're going to want to do is get the dough together. Since it's a yeast dough, it's going to need to rise. You will need, for the dough, flour, sugar, oil, salt, baking soda, yeast, and water. For the filling, you'll need ground meat of some kind, cabbage, mushrooms, garlic, ginger, chives, green onion, MSG, soy sauce, Shaoxing cooking wine if you have it. Honestly, anything you throw in here will be delicious. All right, so the dough for bao is pretty simple. It's just a yeast, water, flour dough, but we've got a couple extra ingredients. So to our mixing bowl, we're gonna wanna add 1 1/4 cups of flour. We're gonna add 2 tablespoons of sugar to sweeten it up. We're gonna add 2/3 of a cup of water. We're gonna add 1 teaspoon of salt. 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. What this will do is it will won't lower the pH. It'll raise the pH slightly, which will give us a slightly different chew on the dough. We're gonna add 1 packet of yeast. This is 0.25 ounces or 7 grams. So if you're using your own thing, it's like 2 teaspoons of yeast. My muscles have failed me once again. There it is. Now you can bloom the yeast beforehand. It'll just make your dough rise faster, but it's not necessary. And finally, we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of a neutral oil, like vegetable oil or canola oil. What this is gonna do is it's gonna make our dough a little softer and also help with leakage. And we're gonna apply a little bit of oil a little bit later to the dough to make sure that we don't get any leakage. So we're just gonna mix this together with our stand mixer. You can do it by hand until a nice supple dough comes together. So now we've got a slightly sticky dough ball, but it's, pretty good. And we're just gonna cover this with oiled plastic wrap, and we're gonna let this rise until it's about doubled in size, which, depending on whether you bloomed your yeast or not, how warm your room is, it should take between an hour and a half. Okay? But keep an eye on it, and once it's about doubled in size, we'll be ready to roll our dough. But in the meantime, we should get our filling together. So we're ready to get our bao filling together. Now, you can use any ground meat that you want. It doesn't really matter. Traditionally, pork is used, sometimes shrimp is used, sometimes a combination of those, but it really doesn't matter what you put inside your dumpling. If you don't want any meat, maybe do tofu or something like that. We're gonna be using ground chicken. So I've got a pound of ground chicken here. Gonna dump that right in there. To that, I'm gonna add about a cup of shredded Napa cabbage, about a cup of roughly chopped mushrooms, about a 1/4 cup each of chive and green onion, 3 cloves of garlic minced, and about a 1-inch knob of garlic. ginger minced. Then I'm gonna add a teaspoon of MSG, optional. I'm gonna add a teaspoon each of regular and dark soy sauce. I'm gonna add a half teaspoon of sesame oil. I'm gonna add about a teaspoon of Shaoxing cooking wine. This is something that's very common in Chinese cooking. It's used to kind of reduce the gaminess of meat and fishiness of seafood. If you don't have this, you can leave it out. And then you could add sugar, but I'm gonna add a little bit of dark soy sauce. So probably about 2 teaspoons. Then I'm just gonna get in there with my hands and mix it up until it's a nice, homogeneous, almost like a paste. And our bao filling is ready to go. You can, and again, the bao filling is your blank canvas. You can put anything you want in here, whatever seasonings, whatever spices. So have some fun with it. But these are ready to fill. So it's time to get our bao dough, roll it out, and fill these bad boys. All right, we're ready to assemble our bao. Now, I'm bad at this, so if my bao look ugly, it's okay. They'll still taste good. I realize that there is an aesthetic component to cooking. I just don't put too much weight on it. They're gonna be delicious, so you know what? The beauty's on the inside. So we've got our dough, we've got our filling. I've got a little bit of oil in here, and you'll see why I need that in just a second. I've got flour here. I may not need that. Depends on how sticky your dough is. If your dough is too sticky to work with, add a little bit of flour. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of my dough. I'm gonna roll it into a ball with my hands. And the size of the bun is totally up to you. If you want to be really consistent, what you can do is you can weigh your dough and like on a scale and then divide it into exact equal units. I don't care to do that. So you can make them as big or as small as you want. Keep in mind, bigger ones will take longer to cook. So got my ball of dough. I'm just gonna press it down. Then I'm gonna roll it out. I don't want to roll it too thin. I can move forward. I don't want to roll it too thin. And I'm using a dowel, not a traditional rolling pin. I find I have a little more control with this. I don't want to do it too thin. So I'm gonna do that way and this way. And you want to try to leave the center a little more thick than the edges, because you're gonna pull the edges up and over, and the center is what's going to have the bulk of the filling on it. Okay, so you can stretch it out to roughly, you know, a disc, whatever you want it to be. Okay, so I'm gonna put it in the crook of my hand, and now I'm gonna take a little bit of oil and just rub it in the center. Okay, I don't want to get on the edges because I need it to seal. The reason I'm doing this is because as your filling cooks, unless you pre-cook it, which you can do, as your filling cooks, it'll release juices, and you don't want a soggy bottom of your bun. So I'm gonna put a big scoop, you can do a small scoop, of my filling right in the center. And then I'm gonna pull my edges up and over. And I'm gonna try to pleat it as I do. So we're gonna go up, and then bring this one up and over, fold up and over, up and over. As you can see, mine are very not pretty. Up and over, up and over, up and over, up and over. And then I like to pinch the top and give it a little twist, just to make sure it's sealed. There you go. You have a, again, mine are very ugly.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it.
But functional. And that'll go in our steamer basket, which I've lined with parchment paper so they don't stick. So you do want to give these space because they will expand a lot while they're cooking. So we're just going to make a couple of those. Now we're going to steam these dumplings until they're done. It depends on the size of the dumplings. I would guess these will take probably 15 minutes. If they're bigger, steam them longer. If they're not, steam them less. Because we have raw meat inside, what you can do is take one, cut it open, see if the meat's done. But generally, if the dough is done, it'll puff up, it'll kind of get a sheen on the outside, then it's done cooking. So we'll just throw this on the steamer, and when they're done, we're gonna try them. So it's been about 15 minutes. So our bao are ready. Look at them. You can see they've puffed up. They're a little glistening. These boys are ready to come out. So we got our bao. Now again, these are not the prettiest things in the world, but they're gonna be delicious. So let's just try one on its own. You can see it gets thinner at the bottom, thicker at the top. That's my personal incompetence in rolling out the dough. If you can leave it thicker at the bottom and thinner at the top, you'll adjust that ratio, but it doesn't matter that much. So let's just try it by itself. It's so good. Yeah, the filling is going to determine, by and large, the flavor. And we just nailed this filling. It's sweet, savory, rich. Got that ginger, the onion, the soy sauce, and the bread is like fluffy and a little bit sweet. And it's just the right amount of chew, so it's not super chewy, but it's also not cakey. That is a rousing success. And use that same dough, change up the filling. Do a pork one, do a chicken one, do a beef one, do a tofu one. Whatever you put in there, it's gonna be good. And the beautiful thing about this is, now for a lot of dumplings you can freeze them. These, since they're a yeast dough, you can't really freeze them, but get your family together, put something on TV, have a conversation, roll out some bao, make a bunch, and have a dumpling party. That's what you need to do. And this, man, this is good. All right, but a lot of times dumplings are not served by themselves. They're gonna be served with a sauce. We're gonna make the simplest sauce. We're just gonna take some soy sauce, and then add to that, we're just gonna add, it's basically just soy sauce and vinegar. So we've got some Chinese black vinegar. You can use any vinegar, rice vinegar, apple cider vinegar. Just keep in mind that whatever vinegar you use is gonna impart its flavor. And then I've got some, can't pronounce it, probably Shenjiang something vinegar. Ooh, yeah. This one's almost like a malt vinegar. A little bit of that. So because the bao is like rich and sweet, we want something that's kind of salty and sour to cut through that. So we're just gonna dip a little bit. Oh my goodness. This is worth every second of effort you put into it. I can't express to my how good this is. Holy moly. Until next time, I'm your amateur. Until next time, I'm lost for words. I'm lost for words. I'm amateur pro home chef Nathanael Levinson, and I'm going to take a bow. That might be the best bow I've ever made. Holy moly, dude, that's so good.